Have you ever heard of Bilu, the Brazilian ET? You've probably already seen some video or news report about him, and you probably had a good laugh since mainstream media has been treating this subject in an ironic and humorous way. But we at Tempo Zero decided to make a more investigative video and went after people who claim to have established some kind of contact with this being. Did you know there are more than 1,000 people?
I started here at Projeto Portal kind of by accident because I never believed in extraterrestrial beings. It was never a subject that interested me. I think it's because that whole American movie thing is so ingrained. The alien, the little green man, the flying saucer, the tin spaceship and all that. And it was a story that never really sat well with me. And I thought that at Projeto Portal I was going to find a bunch of crazy people, that it was going to be something like that. But the experiences I had, my personal experiences, are what proved to me that what I was witnessing was actually real. I've always been very skeptical, really. One of those experiences was with Bilu.
I had an encounter with Bilu here in Brasilia. I also had contact with Bilu in Espírito Santo during a fieldwork and at the farm. I had other encounters later on.
It was a surprise for me the first time I met him during a fieldwork in Rio Grande do Sul. The purpose, I was told, that day was not to talk to Bilu. We saw a light. Later we found out that it's a means of transportation that Bilu also uses. He uses various ways to come to us here on the surface because he is currently living in an underground city.
I've had many conversations with Bilu. The first was in the city of Caçapava do Sul, in a district called Minas do Camaquã. The place is big, very big, with a lot of sand. That conversation I had with him lasted about 2 hours. I realized he was there when I saw, about 70 meters away from me, a very fast low light moving from one side to the other. This light was orange, reddish, leaning towards red, very beautiful and large. It was moving around very quickly. I walked toward that light. When I got there, I met Bilu.
Usually we see him in the woods, right? During a fieldwork trip that took place in Minas Camaquã, which is a completely open area, basically a desert with no woods at all, he appeared as a light. So he came as a very strong light. And out of nowhere we saw a shadow, a tiny little figure like this right in front of us. So at that moment I thought, wow, there's no way. This could be a hoax or anything. All the lingering doubts I still had disappeared right then because I saw them appear right in front of me.
The first time I came here was, August or September of 2002, 2003, I'm not sure. So it was me, my mom, Cledes and Charles. We went up there, up on the plateau, to do the activation and all that. I must have been here at the project for about 40 minutes, at most, right? Then I started doing the activation and everything, and suddenly a red light started blinking in the sky, right in the middle of the sky. At that moment, I completely let my guard down. I said, what? What is that, right? Then we thought, no, calm down. That's just the probe they send to check out how things are here. Run! Run! No, mister, I'll keep get out of here. Run! Hey, look! The wonderful coconut tree, standing tall. Hey, come back! Let's go back. Then he was like, what? And I was like, no, it's gonna scan you and all that. So I was like, all right. All right.
The first time I climbed the hill, I went up like 2 stretches of the hill, and there was a red observation probe landed there in the grass, in the bushes. I remember, of course, that I didn't know what it was, right, since it was the first time I was seeing it. Then Alexandra said, that's an observation probe. It was something really beautiful. And moving to see, that red probe stopped right next to us, about 2 meters away.
I was with about 20 or 30 other people. Everyone was walking along the trail. Then Bilu showed up, always playful, you know. That's just his way, you know, even to lighten the mood, because just imagine we're out in the middle of the woods at 3 in the morning to have contact with an extraterrestrial. So you get kind of nervous, right? Kind of scared, you know, sort of, you don't know what's going to happen, right? And then Bilu, to break the tension, always playful and all that, does a bunch of visual effects to entertain everyone and help people feel more at ease, you know?
Nós também.
The first contact I had with Bilu was together with the children. There were about 30 people, ranging from 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, up to 22 years old. There were a lot of people and we were walking along a road and then suddenly we heard a voice, Bilu.
Não, atrás das árvores. Tem alguém no confirmador aí, gente? Tem o Max.
Bilu, se você puder dar um flashzinho só para te localizar melhor, agradeço. Ah, obrigado.
Bilu quer andar no meio do povo.
Sim.
Mas para isso, as 40 navegações decidiram para que todos vocês chegam no nível 9 de proficiências. Todos estão ouvindo, entendendo, Bilu?
Sim. Ó, ele está dizendo, o Bilu disse que vai passar hoje para...
Mais alto.
Ah, é porque eu estou um pouco rouco, Bilu.
Tá bom.
Ele disse que os seres de Nona estão aguardando que todos nós cheguemos ao nível 9, porque aí então nós receberemos deles tecnologias para ter a melhor vida do planeta. Mais ou menos isso, Bilu?
Não.
Mas foi feita de forma humana.
Desculpe, Bilu.
Não há problema, Bilu entende.
Desculpe mesmo.
Não há problema. Bilu fala muito, Bilu é língua útil.
I've been participating in the Portal project for 12 years now. What I do, I take care of all the files. We record, you know, all the images. We record the sounds. We record everything. After some time, I had the opportunity to actually film, to capture the image of a being from Pegasus, because he made it very clear to me, because he allowed it, you know? There came a moment when he wanted to show himself to the camera, and I was able to capture his image with my camera. I always went with a camcorder. I use a regular camcorder, just a normal hand cam with night shot, and we were always able to record the sound very well, but I could never capture the image. And it was something incredible, because with the naked eye, I could see the being right in front of me. He was there, but the camcorder wouldn't capture anything at all. Yeah, until it got to the point that in one of the times I talked to them, they turned to me and said that they really wanted to appear, that they were going to let themselves be filmed. And I waited. I even asked them, right, I said, why do you want this? Then they said, because we need to make people aware. People need to wake up. And they will wake up once they come into contact with our frequency, you know, which will be transmitted through the video. So I kept waiting. We had other opportunities, but I was never able to capture anything.
Then later on the left side, like next to the portal key, a kind of portal opened up there.
The portal opened, a little light came out from inside, and then it closed. So I looked at my mom like this. Did you see that? Then Charles said, no, calm down, guys. That's just a ship that arrived. It's just a ship that came out of the portal. That's all. I said, all right. Then we kept going and kept going like that. It went on for about 10 minutes. Then after that, another huge portal opened up in the middle behind the key. Another one, guys, a huge ship came out right from the middle. Another ship came out, man, 3 ships in total. I looked at Cladinha, and Cladinha was already crying too, you know? Then there was just silence. Everyone was like that, you know? The ship that was in the middle came even closer, and you could see the shadow inside the ship. I've never seen anything like it again, you know? All these years later, in all these years, all the trips, I never saw anything like it again. But that happened just like that, as if to say, look at how things are here, you know? I was here for 40 minutes on the farm.
I saw more than 16, 17 ships, you know? That's a lot, and all of it happened in just half an hour, 40 minutes. And there was also another conversation with a being that was much more subtle. It vibrated at a frequency far beyond what we are able to perceive. We have a limit to our perception. We have to train that, right? Train this perception so it becomes more sharp, more refined. And this being, it couldn't present itself as a humanoid. It showed itself through lights, through various lights, in different ways. And lights that couldn't possibly come from anywhere. Yeah, lights that just appear and move around and everything, and they communicate. The voice comes out of nowhere, you know?
I've talked to Bilu several times. I believe I've spoken to him more than 10 times already. I saw him here with stripes. Yeah, I saw him with glowing eyes. I saw him walking in the woods. He would make the light burst below, float above. He would flash the light everywhere, all around. He would talk to us in front, behind. He called me, he said, "Annalise, come closer." I approached him. And yeah, I was about 2 meters away from him. And from his belly, rays of light would come out. I saw these rays of light beneath a small layer of fuzz. I said, "Bilu, do you have rays of light in your belly?" "Yes, I want to do that too." "No, not humans." "But Bilu, are you human?" "Yes, I have a human form." "Actually, I am more evolved than you because I am in a dimension, in the third dimension, but at a higher sub-level."
So time went by until he turned to me and asked, "Can you see me?" Then I said, "Look, I can see you with my naked eye, but the camera can't capture you." Then he turned to me and said, "Well, then I'll help the camera." And it was a magical thing. It was the most impressive thing that I started looking at the LCD and it became clear to me. It was a man. He was sitting on the floor with his right knee bent and his hand resting on his knee. And that was surprising, right? I looked and I couldn't believe it. The people turned and said, "But we can't see you anymore." Right? The only person who was actually able to see was me, but through the camera, I couldn't see with the naked eye either. And he said, "It's because, well, I'm using an ultraviolet frequency that you guys can't pick up yet. And it's just for the camera. I'm helping the camcorder." Não, não tô te vendo aqui não.
Acende mais um pouquinho.
Ah, tá.
O objetivo não foca assim a luz física de vocês, então o Bilu vai transformar a luz nossa vibracional em uma luz física.
Ah, vi. Tô te vendo.
Não sabia disso.
Caraca, que legal. Mas só a câmera tá vendo, a gente não tá vendo.
A gente queria te ver.
Você tá agachado, Bilu?
Eu?
É.
Estou muito parecido com vocês. Vocês estão sentados.
Pode acender um pouquinho a lanterna pra baixo?
Não.
Ah, não, porque ele tá numa frequência aparentemente ultravioleta, alguma coisa assim que a câmera pega. A gente não
Claro.
Bilu, essas ativações que tu fez ali agora, a gente recebe também?
Claro.
Que bom.
A frequência do Bilu somente para a câmera. Vocês não enxergam quase nada.
É, a gente não enxerga quase nada também.
Olha, Bilu, eu tô te vendo. Você tá com uma mão no chão, outra mão no joelho, não é isso?
Exatamente.
Tô vendo seus
Bilu?
olhos.
Eu também estou vendo seus olhos.
Bilu, em relação a essa frequência ultravioleta, como é que a gente pode ativar a nossa visão para poder perceber essa tua frequência?
Tem a visão periférica. Meridianos periféricos vibracionais.
Now, what surprised me even more is that when I later picked up the camera and went to look, you know, I saw his image clearly. Some people can see it, not everyone sees the same thing. There are people who can't see it as clearly as I did at the time. And I think he really played with me. He played a sort of game exactly because of the rational mind. I managed to, well, see something there. I don't even know if that was really his form. But what I feel is that it's like a training that has just begun, and that this will evolve until we can get an image to actually show, which is what they want.
He has control over his own energy, and when he wants to show himself to our eyes, it's about the frequency that our eyes can perceive or not. There was a certain moment when some people received directly from his hands a specific kind of food, which is the food that the intraterrestrial beings use, which they also call it tabletinho, which is a little tablet that contains only what is necessary for our bodies. There's nothing extra in it. In other words, it contains minerals, amino acids, everything necessary to nourish a being in the third dimension that is as dense as we are. And as they stood in front of Bilu, they received a little tablet from Bilu's hands. And what caught my attention was that this tablet would change its flavor. Bilu then said at that moment, think of the flavor you want. The food would then transform its flavor into whatever the person was thinking of. I found that very interesting.
On the day I received the little tablet at the farm, he initially told me that I should see it, but I couldn't see it, not just because it was very dark, but also because I have trouble seeing in the dark. So he said, Arideus, use your peripheral vision. And so after trying really hard, it finally revealed itself, and I was able to see it completely. It floated so I could see it better, becoming larger. Then it would return to its normal size, and every time it made any movement or did something, it would say, describe it to them, meaning there was a group of people on the trail who were near the spot where I was with it. Then it would float and say, tell them I'm floating. So I would say, look, everyone, Bilu is floating. Then it would return to its normal size. But before receiving the little tablet, it asked me to extend my right hand. I reached out to him. It came over and touched my hand with its hand several times. It said, I'm doing the activation. So it activated my right hand. And only after that did it give me the little tablet. He said, eat it now. And this little tablet, interestingly, at first, it tasted like honey or grated coconut, something like that. Then he turned to me and said, whatever flavor you think of, that's what you'll taste. And that's exactly what happened.
Like if I thought of strawberry, it tasted like strawberry. If I thought of chocolate, it tasted like chocolate. Honey, it tasted like honey. Bilu, his face is kind of white, like this, and his hand doesn't have a single wrinkle. Like he's really old, but he doesn't have any wrinkles. Not even those little lines we have.
His little hand is a small hand. It's a little hand, like a child's hand. The hand has no nails. The fingers have no nails and no wrinkles. He touched our forehead with his index finger. His little hand is a warm hand. He was fair-skinned, white face. On his face, there was a band on his forehead. Yeah, a white band on his forehead.
First, we had to visualize him. We had to see all the details of his face so that he could give us the little tablet. Then he placed the little tablet and said, my hand is warm. Such a tiny little hand. Then he put his hand on top of mine and placed the little tablet. And I stayed like that, face to face with him, about 20 centimeters apart. I managed to see him, to visualize him completely. The eyes, the face, the hair, everything.
I was able to see him, when he appeared one of the times. He came in a very large orange bubble. And like a Vitruvian man with that drawing, he came with his arms and his legs spread out inside the bubble. We could see his silhouette perfectly like that. And then he went poof. He appeared right in front of us, came down from that bubble in front of us. And we saw his clothes were whitish, and his forehead was also whitish. And he said that, these are the white garments that are affected by an energy, and that one day, with our mental evolution, we will all be able to have these white garments.
I once said that he was wearing jeans, and he replied, no, Bilu doesn't wear pants, Bilu wears garments. So he was wearing a garment, like a dark cloak. I said, Bilu, but the cloak is very dark. You're very, very, very dark. He said, but it needs to be. But I'm going to change. I'm going to change my garment. Then he immediately changed, just like that, to a light gray garment. I said, describe it to them, and I would describe it. He was wearing a light gray garment. After a while, I said, Bilu, couldn't you wear that light garment? You have the one that's much prettier? He said, all right, Bilu will wear it. He put on a light garment, a sash, the one that's the sign of the victors, right? Or the robe of the victors, I'm not sure. And it really did look very nice. He said, now describe it to them. So I described it. I said, now it looks good. And he said, say that Bilu is handsome. They would say, hey, everyone, he's saying that Bilu is handsome. He said, no, Bilu handsome.
I was in a group of people doing a certain activity when we arrived, and Bilu was up in a tree. Not behind the bushes, he was up in a tree, a big tree. And he started talking to us. A moment later, in just seconds, he came down from the tree.
And he was on the ground like this. He was a white mass. He didn't have a human shape. He didn't have any shape at all. He was a white energetic mass, something that floated. And I got scared. I said, Bilu, what is this? Is that you? He said, yes, it's me. And so when he said, yes, it's me, he went and climbed back up into the tree again. It was a very interesting thing, totally different from what we're used to seeing from Bilu, right? With those different faces, with those, every time he shows up, he's in a different form, right? But I have managed to see Bilu, physically, I have already managed to do that. He's short, about 1 meter 40 tall. He's stocky, strong, not fat, but stocky, and he's broad. He has a kind of big face, kind of big, and his skin is amber colored. It's not white skin, it's a yellowish tone, a different color, kind of strange, his color. He doesn't have ears, he just has little holes here, and he has a thin, patchy beard, right? And Bilu has this thing. It's really funny, depending on the situation. He changes his expression. He changes his face. He changes the way he looks at us. Sometimes he talks to us with a lot of affection, like as if we were someone really dear to him. Other times he can be more stern, but he has a very strong characteristic. He is very cheerful.
He gave an astronomy lesson. He talked about things that our science is still studying. And he showed that he has a very deep knowledge of the universe and universal laws.
What I found most interesting was that a group of French people who didn't speak a word of Portuguese asked Bilu a question and he answered them in French as well. I definitely want to develop and become a polyglot like him.
He's very funny, he jokes around with us a lot, and we have a great time when we're with him.
He sings songs for us, and we sing songs for him. He keeps playing around with us. He comes close and tries to startle us.
And we started talking, someone would start a conversation and he would answer. And then he talked a lot about nutrition, about what a proper and more natural diet would be like for us, right? He talked about some things that were going to happen later this year, and they really are happening. And then he did light effects and played around, showing up on camera and moving from one side to the other like that.
Bilu, pode dar flashzinho pra te filmar melhor? Mais pra localizar bem. Você mudou pouquinho, Bilu. Agora sim, pô. Mais Pô, Bilu, você tá brincando comigo, Bilu. Agora eu te achei.
Por isso vocês precisam cuidar bem do corpo, cuidar bem da mente, cuidar bem do coração, cuidar bem do estado de espírito de vocês. Nós estamos orientando vocês, vocês estão indo muito bem.
So we started singing songs just to cheer things up, to get into the right vibe, because the little kids, they get a bit scared and all, but so we sang like Bilu, 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 Bilu Teteya, those really childish songs. And then we saw several flashes like blue, yellow, silver. We saw some flashes through the woods all over the forest. Yeah, only those who actually come see and experience it know what it's like, It's no use just watching a video or hearing the voice. You have to go through the energy, be in the presence to really feel what it is.
It was a really good feeling. It was very interesting, very important to me. And one of the first technologies he showed me was that he got big. He became about 2 meters tall. Normally, Bilu is about 1 meter and 40 centimeters tall. And that day, he got bigger, he grew, he became huge. He was about 2 meters tall, and it was really interesting too, because he went above the horizon line. Since he got so tall, he went past it and the sky was clear. So that day I could see his arms stretched out like this, his whole body stretched. It was really cool to see him like that. And it happened, not like you would in a matter of seconds. He stretched out, stayed like that for about 5 seconds. And then he shrank again, went back to 1 meter and 40. So it was really cool. I asked him to do it more than once, and he did it one more time. And during the contact, the feeling I had was really good, because that day, it was really cold. So during the contact with him, I felt really good, and the cold went away. That feeling of cold had passed. After I ended the contact, after I had already talked to him for 2 hours, that cold feeling from the environment started to come back. That was one of the things that really caught my attention too.
Encounter that left the biggest impression on me was the one where he called the children and we waited, and he made flashes of light, floated and appeared physically, where the children touched him and he touched those children.
He went around, he energized everyone's hand who was there. He tapped everyone's hand. Then he touched from one side to the other, like this. You know. He said, Bilu, heavy, Bilu, heavy. When I saw him growing, he got even taller. But he was short. He could grow and shrink. He floated, he had his feet on the ground. Then he floated on purpose. I've never seen anyone float before. We were looking down. Then I saw when his feet left the ground.
He has a human voice. The conversation is like I'm talking here with you. They have an ease in moving from one place to another, sometimes making noise, sometimes without making any noise. Really, it's like he's sitting at your doorstep, talking with you, like a friend, someone you're getting to know. You actually start to build a relationship. It's like I'm getting to know a person.
Since I think energetically the group was oscillating, he was making adjustments so that he could get closer to us. He kept getting closer and some people still couldn't see him. He would ask questions. He asked us not to be scared because he was going to make some noise. We could feel his footsteps approaching, making noise, breaking through the underbrush. And he got to about 2 meters away from us. And I could see Bilu clearly. Some people couldn't see him. And it's interesting because he changed color right in front of us. He changed color so that some people could see him. All of us prepared ourselves to speak, to be able to make that connection. It's really a matter of preparing yourself. So it happens that in some groups, one person is able to see him and others can't, or some see him more clearly, others less so. It's really a matter of developing skills, of training yourself so you can get close enough to Bilu to actually see him.
Mais pra cima. Agora, mais ou menos, já achei aí. Tá, mas eu não tô te vendo. Dá uma mexida aí. Ah, agora pegou. Eu acho. Tá, pegou, peraí. Dá um sorriso aí. Como é que os caras vão acreditar que tu é um extraterrestre? Não precisa. Só pra nós. Tá.
And during the contact, I stayed in communication with a large group using a radio. Then my radio started running out of batteries. So I said, Bilu, my radio's out of batteries, what should I do? Should I go back to the big group or should we keep going like this? Then he said no, that Bilu would get batteries for me and would even go to the nearest store to get the batteries for me. And it was also very interesting because at no point did he leave my side. He was about 3 meters away and never moved further away at any moment. He stayed really close to me and within a few seconds he already told me, Larissa, I already have the batteries and I want to give them to you. And wow, I found that really interesting because he was so fast and never left my side. So when he went to give me the batteries, he walked up really close to me, got right next to me and handed me the battery. So I took the batteries, swapped them out, put them in the radio, and then continued talking to the team and passing information to them.
It was amazing when he disappeared. He simply said the contact was about to end, and the light disappeared into the ground. It was as if a light bulb burst on the ground, and then he vanished, apparently into a portal that opened up in the ground and took him away.
Yeah, we were doing an activity, talking and everything, when he showed up near us, a little light, which is the reactor he uses. And this light is used for various things, not just to get our attention, but also to activate us, right?
Show. Pegou legal, Bilu.
Essa luz que você joga ativa a gente pra alguma coisa?
Não, pra televisão.
Bilu, você produz essa luz com tecnologia ou é o seu campo eletromagnético?
He's fantastic. That's what I can say, after he appeared on some TV channels and became famous and quite controversial. But what I can say is that after you have the experience, of talking, getting close to Bilu, well, there's no doubt left.
I've already had contact with, there were 67 people. And then we said, oh, okay, there are a lot of people. How are we going to do this and everything? Oh, grab the megaphone. He said, okay, Bilu will get it. Then suddenly there was a light, like a portal, it opened, and there was this light, and then he came back.
Bora, Bilu, que é o megafone.
É o megafone. Cadê o megafone? Tá lá nas marcas. Vai fazer, Bilu? Por favor, sim, Bilu.
Olha, ele foi buscar e volta em frações de segundo.
Agora está o megafone é muito grande. Eu gosto de mostrar a tecnologia da transporte para que vocês aprendam a mesma coisa de fazer
Then there was that trip with the plasma lying down, right? So everyone went over to the probes, right? And so on, we were going to do plasma work. On what? Plasma, everything has plasma. What do you mean everything has plasma? Yeah, if you take something, if you connect it to matter, plasma, look, there's the scintillation, right? And then it was delivered to the groups out in the middle of the woods with him lying there on the ground. Man, what a crazy bunch of people, right? So we'd get there and put a little stone like this. Then when I looked, I saw it in that ball. A ball of white fire like that. And it goes by and then you have to go over to the guy, right?
Guy can't. He doesn't go lying down.
He doesn't go lying down. Lying down like this, burning the hand of lies. Really cool, super cool. Then the two of you, you stay like this, really remembering, both standing at attention. This is all the same trip.
Another account I have of a conversation with Bilu, he allowed me to get close to him. We were just 1 meter apart, super close. Then I was able to see more details of his body, his arms, his legs, his whole body. So then we asked him to turn on a light so we could see him better. And it was really incredible because he turned on a light and this light of his was inside his chest. And we were able to see this light inside his chest, this light shone through his body. It was a reddish orange light, the same light I saw during the conversation I had with him in Minas do Camacuã.
Agora que nós estávamos parados ali no platôzinho, eu vi no fundo, oposto aqui onde a gente está, uma luz vermelha. Isso tem a ver com você? É essa mesma luz que apareceu lá em Minas do Camacuã? Essa luz significa o quê? Ah, ok. Você estava observando, então.
Then one of our friends started talking. Hey, my name is so-and-so. I do this and that. You know me? And Bilu said, of course I know you. Just joking around. Then I turned to Bilu and said, and me, Bilu, do you know me? And he said, Pikitita. And little one like that is actually one of the nicknames my friends call me. So I thought it was really cool that he said that, those kinds of things.
He said my name, Orilus. And it was really important for me to hear my name because, first of all, I didn't know he knew my name, and my name is very difficult, very unusual. So I said, yes, Bilu, it's me? He said, Bilu knows. So Bilu even knows my name, and I didn't know him. Every time I heard him saying my name in my subconscious, I felt, a feeling of peace, of harmony, you know? Yeah, the frequency created a really pleasant feeling inside me, as if it were a kind of state of grace. He mentioned something personal about me, you know, that only he and I knew at that moment, because no one else on the farm knew. As he himself said, Bilu knows everything, right? And Bilu is much more than just that childlike frequency. We look at him and think he's a child, but he's a wise being. Bilu is a wise being. Besides having various abilities like bilocation, teleportation, energy manipulation, telepathy, he knows all of us. He asked us to head to the Yorubu Cave, which is another spot there on the farm, and told us to stay there because something was going to happen, but he didn't say what. And when we arrived, the 6 of us sat down and started looking at the forest. And suddenly, several beautiful, colorful lights appeared. They started out small and then grew larger. Small and then expanding, coming closer and moving away in various colors. These lights were seen by everyone. All the people who were there, all 6 of us. There was no way it could have been a flashlight or, for example, Christmas tree lights, because it was very specific. Later we found out that this was a light bath and that this light bath works on our energy field, on our aura, working on stabilization, energy, a lot of things.
Time, the place, it's, I don't know, it's kind of driven by an energy. You feel a different energy, you know? You can feel it.
A lot of good things happened, energetically speaking. You feel a really nice vibration, something inexplicable. Only by experiencing it, those who witness this can say what it's like to talk to a being, what it's like to see this interaction between beings. It's really cool.
That's right, you have to want it for it to happen, because if you don't want it, if you don't do anything, if you don't go after it, you won't be able to see anything. You'll just think it's a person back there and that's it. You have to open your mind, open your consciousness, take care of yourself, and really try to find out, wow, is this really true? Is everything that's on TV really true? Not everything that's on TV is true. There's a lot of knowledge. That isn't just on TV, that isn't just on the internet. We have to go after it. We really have to seek out knowledge. Like Kobo says, you have to seek knowledge. You think, oh, cool, I'm in school, I'll get a job, I'll have kids, then I die and that's it. But that's not it. There's so much more beyond your own room, beyond your own world. I think you guys should try to discover a little more.
E minha expressão, uma mensagem a todos.
Você pode falar. Qual a sua mensagem para a Terra, Bilu?
Apenas que busque conhecimento.
So, who is Bilu after all? Where did he come from? Why is he here? Why does he have that voice? We interviewed some people involved in the Portal project to try to unravel these and other questions. Let's see what they can clarify for us about Bilu.
Well, I have known him practically since my childhood, since I was born. But actually, I only became aware of who Bilu really was when I turned 14. Then yes, I was completely certain that Bilu was a being from another world, part of our world. But until then, he kind of accompanied me during my childhood in various parts of school and through some difficulties we had, regarding the family. But I thought he was just an ordinary boy from the area, since that's how he identified himself. But it was only at 14 that I became certain that he was someone different.
15 years ago, I heard about a place called Projeto Portal, and at that place they talked about intraterrestrial races, which really caught my attention because we always hear a lot about extraterrestrial races, beings that came from outside the planet. So I sought out this group, which at the time was led and is still led by Urandir Fernandez de Oliveira, who is the one who coordinates Projeto Portal. I attended a lecture and they said that we could go on this trip. At the time it was just a space, not a farm like it is today. And when we got there, Urandir did his work. He evaluated the energy field of everyone present. At night he said, now we're going to go up to a place called the Plateau. It was a narrow little trail, all full of holes that he himself had made. About 20 or 30 people went up to this place. When we got there to that place, we sat down. Urandir waited a little while. Suddenly, off in the distance, on the horizon, some little lights started to appear. They blinked here, blinked there, blinked over there. Suddenly, a big one appeared, or right, and it came in our direction like this, passed by at a distance, then went up, and stayed there. A perfectly round disc, a really perfect disc, you know? And it would go up and down, right? Then Urandir would say, that's the ship of a Laquim.
Bilu is a race that we call Laquim. Yeah, he himself said that, right? That he is from the Laquim race. So his race is characterized by being small, short stature, you know. He's one of the tallest of his race. He's 1.40 meters. And the Laquims, they are intraterrestrials. That is, their origin is from Pegasus. They don't live here on the surface of the earth. They live in intraterrestrial cities.
These beings started to appear, which we used to see only as distant lights, like ships that hovered in the sky and then disappeared. Until one fine day, a group of people coming back from work, about 2 kilometers from the main house, by car, noticed a little light in the middle of the woods, stopped the car, got out and called out to this being, and this being introduces himself. It says his name is Bilu. This being played around. It was about 6 or 7 o'clock. 6 or 7 o'clock Mato Grosso time. It was still daylight. And when they got close to this little light, there was just a small light about 5 or 6 meters away from them. No one could see anything, but they could hear this being with a somewhat childlike, high-pitched, playful voice joking around with them there.
He presents himself as Bilu, but actually it's a sound frequency, not a name like the ones we have, the ones our parents give us, right? They choose a name for us. He has a name that is a sound frequency that calms us, relaxes us, puts us at ease so that he can talk to us.
He chose this name for several reasons. One, because of the frequency, right? The frequency of the name, because this name is one, that creates a sense of calm and fun in people, which is what Bilu wants to convey at this moment.
I also found it curious, like, why Bilu? So I went on Google and searched for the name Bilu. I typed in Bilu, right? And the origin of the name Bilu is it's a biblical name, right? It comes from a biblical origin, right? So it's something that goes back thousands of years.
Also, in the sound frequency of this name, okay, it creates a vibration that's necessary, that helps with the contacts. So in that sense, Bilu is a strategic name.
That's also why he uses that voice, as if he were a child. He says everything jokingly, but even while joking and speaking with a child's voice, he shows immense wisdom and gives us a series of messages and advice. He talks about our past, present, and future, and says things that an ordinary human being wouldn't know.
He is a child. He has a child's voice. He is 4,010 years old, and even so, he says he's a child. In fact, he has the energy of a child, so he works with that childlike joy and passes it on to us during contact, during conversation. He transmits that joy and tranquility to us. We feel at ease, so there is no fear, nothing that blocks us. So really, it's as if we are actually in front of a child. Completely at ease, he makes us feel comfortable. Besides that, he is very funny.
On a beautiful day in a place called Tanque de Peixe, we stayed there for about 45 minutes, talking, chatting, joking around, when suddenly a pickup truck appeared coming from a more distant place where they had made contact. A bright light was in front of the pickup truck. It looked like a tiny star moving, and the pickup truck was coming right behind it, you know. The pickup truck would stop, the people would get out and talk to that light, then it would disappear, and the pickup truck would move on, right? When it disappeared over there, we said, look, something different is happening over there. Suddenly, out in the middle of the woods, a voice appeared saying, Bilu, 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 Bilu. Just like that, right? Then I remembered Bilu right away and said, Bilu, Bilu, come closer. And he said, Bilu will come closer, yes. Bilu will come closer, yes. I really wanted to see this Bilu, you know? And then he would stop for a bit, crouch down, right? He would be holding some kind of grass in his hand, you know? And then he would come closer. So I said, come closer, Bilu. I still can't see you. It was an open field, you know, really open, like a pasture, where we were with the fish tanks. And you could clearly see this person walking and coming closer. Walking, he would crouch down and come closer. So I said, come closer, Bilu. Then he stopped about 6 meters away from us, right? You could clearly see that it was a person, you know, small, short, right? And sometimes the image of this person would get distorted. And sometimes it would be clear, you know, with a little twig in his hand. And then we started a conversation with him. Bilu, so where are you from? Then Bilu said, Bilu from Pegasus.
Como é que os caras vão acreditar que tu é extraterrestre?
Não preciso.
Não precisa. Só pra nós.
Só mais tarde.
Tá.
It's a being from Pegasus. It's an extraterrestrial. It's a human being who generated a frequency at a very high level, who overcame the difficulties we face, such as cellular degeneration, diseases, and even death, right? So their technology, their diet, and their vibrational elevation made it possible for them to overcome this human condition of ours. They were humans, just like us. They had the same human condition as we do, but this technology, the knowledge, let's say, this manipulation, not only of food, but also of energy, and combined with the technology discovered by these beings, made it so that they didn't die, or that their lifespan was extended to be practically eternal, right, up until now. So he's a being from the stars who also came here to help us, to share this knowledge.
He is an extraterrestrial being. Actually, he's an intraterrestrial, right? But that's because of the work he does underground on the planets. He is an extraterrestrial from the Pegasus constellation. He says he's from the Pegasus constellation so that we, humans on Earth, can identify where he comes from. But it's from a planet there in the Pegasus constellation.
I asked, like, do you live in Pegasus, Bilu? Are you living in Pegasus? Or did you come from Pegasus and are now working here with us? He said, I came from Pegasus. I'm here on Earth, right? In a city called Kasalk, which is an underground city beneath the Projeto Portal, where the headquarters are, stretching from the city of Projeto Portal all the way to, I think, Bolivia, a gigantic city according to him. And he is there in this underground city, doing support work in order to work with humanity.
In reality, they are preparing us. First, they came to prepare Kasab and the other 6 cities. Him, his brothers, and the whole group, more or less like that. Exactly, more or less, no. Exactly 4007. Yes. Intraterrestrials, let's put it that way, or from the Dakin races who came to prepare Kasalk and 6 other cities, including Trigueirinho, if that's one of them, right? Yes, precisely for this moment now, this transition to inhabit, or rather to accommodate many people there, or better yet, 2 million people in each of them, if necessary. So half of Kasalk is adaptable for human beings, for the human condition, with their technology. And the other half of Kasalk is for us, for the dimensionals, who have already managed to communicate with them because they've raised their vibration. So those are the 2 situations.
Bilu is part of a group of missionary beings from 49 different origins. And we usually say 49 races, right? Bilu is from Pegasus. And there are other beings with him, yes, doing the same work of alerting us, warning us, helping us from the Pleiades, Sirius, Orion, Antares, and a number of other origins different from our universe. All these names are celestial bodies known to us. So usually they identify themselves in a way that we can look up at the sky and see where they come from. So there are beings from 49 different races, from 49 different origins, from various dimensions. There are beings from the third dimension like us, but more evolved, both in terms of consciousness and technology, and they are part of this group of 49 races. And there are beings from the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, up to the ninth dimension, as Bilu and others, his companions, have already told us. So we have already talked several times with Bilu, and we've also talked with beings from other origins, even beings from other dimensions. Bilu interacts in the third dimension and the fourth dimension. So he is able to get very close to us, right? How he manages to be practically in the third dimension with others who are in a higher dimension, we have a bit more difficulty talking and interacting with them.
He can interact with dimensions that are parallel to ours. He is made up of 80% energy and only 20% matter. So he controls the matter of his own body. He can, for example, increase his size, as I've seen, going from 1.70 meters to 3 meters tall in a matter of seconds. And he can also appear and disappear and completely change his clothing. And besides that, he changes this physical structure as we know it, right? So he appears in various ways with different clothing, as he says, and sometimes he also appears translucent, as if his face were transparent, even emitting lights from his body.
So Bilu is able to do this because he is a four-dimensional being, right? Since he comes from this process of the fourth dimension, and he's transmuted, he is no longer under the laws of the third dimension. He no longer follows these rules of speed, action, sun, time, space. He follows other rules that are faster than those of our third dimension, right? Because the fourth dimension is faster than the third dimension, right? And because he is in this faster dimension, operating in the fourth dimension, he can do anything, right? Because a being from the fourth dimension is not going to be subject to the laws of the third dimension, which are height, width, and depth, and the time-space variable.
In reality, it interacts between third and fourth like the ultras, who interact across all dimensions in the intermediate plane of all dimensions. So they are interacting between the third and fourth dimensions, but they are already able to manipulate a percentage of the fifth and sixth dimensions. But let's say their main essence is still third dimensional, so much so that they are physical like us, but they already manipulate the energies of parallel realities, which is why they appear, disappear, and materialize, right? For example, in a training situation, regarding the mental aspect, I can bend an object, break it, make it float, and so on. But not every time I want to. I need to create a situation for that to happen. But Bilu and all these beings, they have already developed their minds and their vibrational field to the point where they can, you see, interact with matter at any moment. There isn't a special moment for it. They don't need to create a situation. That's it. Soon it becomes automatic. They pass through walls, float, bend things as they interact, reconstruct them, all in a very quick way, right? So we are still just crawling, compared to their knowledge and development.
He has already gone through the third dimension. He has already water. He was once a human. That is, he already had a body, one that dies and all that. Today, Bilu doesn't die. He is ethereal, meaning he has a body of energy, an immortal body. He is a transmuted being. We know that matter is condensed energy, so his matter would be a more accelerated energy, right? The particles are more accelerated, so he can modify this structure just with the power of his will. He controls this, so he changes the color of his eye color, he can change the color of his fur, his hair, he can even change his physical structure if he wants to, right? But usually he appears with the original characteristics of his race.
He is an extraterrestrial, but he has a human appearance. Because he tells us that we are their descendants, so we have a similar appearance. And since he has mastered the form of the third dimension, he can slightly change his appearance. He can become bigger, smaller, darker, lighter. He can change his color, the shape of his body. And he is a very wise human. He is much wiser than all of humanity on earth combined. So his wisdom is tremendous, just like the love and affection he has for us.
I said, Bilu, it's funny, you keep 6 meters away from us, but I still can't see you clearly. Why is that? He said, because you are still out of frequency, right? Your network, your eyes can't capture the light that my body emits. So that's why you won't be able to see me clearly.
This interaction between us and the beings, or between humanity and the beings, it happens in the situation, in the condition of the third dimension, and it's verbal. But in order for us to be able to see them, of course we have to do some work, like raising our vibration, training our perception, peripheral vision. This makes it easier to see them, and establishing verbal communication with them. That's the deal. So the denser beings, like the Lapins, which is the race of Bilu, Tino, Tato, Papai, and others, they are closer to us in terms of intensity. Even so, sometimes you can see the guy, but the camera doesn't capture it. Sometimes you see him on the LCD screen, but you can't see him with the naked eye. So they show you these two realities, so you can see that even with the frequency of light, they can act in various ways, right? So, and the beings that are more advanced than the Lapans, the beings from Pegasus, we call them 8th or 9th dimension. It's a human silhouette, a luminous silhouette that sometimes appears as human beings, but it doesn't become as dense as we are, right? You can even touch them, feel them, and they can feel you too, right? But it's not completely physical like we are. But it's like a silhouette, sometimes like glass. Except it passes through trees, through the foliage. And when they become a bit denser, they can even make noise and move things a little, but not as much as Bilu, who can become as dense as we are. They leave marks, traces when they want to, So there is this subtlety. It's not quite the same as a spiritual vision. It's much denser, it's a much more intense plasma, more visible than a spiritual apparition, a spiritual entity like people usually see in spiritist centers or in similar practices.
He has complete mastery over the third dimension, so he controls the frequency of his own image, so he can appear on video or not appear on video. He can make himself visible so that we can see him with our eyes, or so that we cannot see him. And he can do both things simultaneously. We can see him and he might not appear on video. We might not see him and he could appear on video, or both things at once. He could also disappear right in front of everyone.
So Bilu can choose whether to appear in front of the cameras or not. Why? Because he manipulates our third dimensional reality with great ease. Okay? So he can teleport, change his appearance, become invisible, become tall, become tiny, right? And this situation of seeing Bilu both big and small, I was able to witness with my own eyes, face to face, observing it myself. And it was also very impressive to see Bilu, become tall, become small, or to watch Bilu grow, and then become tiny right in front of me, because first it served as a testimony, at least for me, since I was there experiencing that reality of what we can achieve if we seek knowledge, To seek knowledge, to understand, to interact with one's own energy, to interact with the frequencies, and to comprehend the frequencies.
Since Bilu masters the third dimension and controls his physical form, he can appear with an appearance different from his real one. Actually, he hasn't shown his true appearance yet. He has presented himself in a few slightly different forms in a way that makes us feel more at ease. And little by little, he keeps sharing information.
Bilu's voice, which is a voice at a child's frequency, all of that helps and contributes to us demystifying the figure of the extraterrestrial, so that we feel more at ease, more comfortable when he appears, without fear, without restrictions, or any other prejudice we might have.
I think that Bilu's appearance is his strategy for showing up gradually, so as not to shock the public.
The images, the way Bilu appeared for television recordings, for TV shows, are a bit different from reality, from his true form, and different from how I saw him during the times I spoke with him, when I was with him. He has abilities that we really don't have, and wisdom too, but to me, his way is human. But the way he appeared on television, he showed up in a way, or in ways, actually different ways, that aren't how we usually see him. But he had a reason to appear that way. It's part of his strategy, gradually sharing information and awakening people to really seek knowledge, right? So that people can gradually prepare themselves to receive this new information.
I think that actually Bilu is getting us ready to really show up as he truly is, as he's already said several times. And this way of his showing himself one way, then another means that we are all one. We are all the same thing. As has already been said, we come from the same place. The universe is vast, and we are part of the universe. We are part of all these extraterrestrial beings that we believe come here, right? So we are all one. So he appears in different forms to show us, or even to simplify, that he can, and we can be, well, many things. And he is demonstrating that.
So he is sending some images in a way that little by little we start to understand ourselves, right? Our terrestrial humanity. So that we can gradually understand who Bilu is, what Bilu represents for all of us. That's why he hasn't shown his true appearance yet.
And since Bilu is a four-dimensional being, Bilu, yes, can speak any language, right? He's in Brazil. Brazil speaks Portuguese. And Bilu speaks Portuguese with us. Portuguese, in his own style.
Bilu talks to us in Portuguese because it's our language. It's the language we use to communicate with each other and with him. So we speak in Portuguese and he answers us in Portuguese. But several times I've witnessed people asking questions in other languages, either because the person has a different nationality or because they speak another language and wanted to specifically test Bilu. So if you ask him in English, he answers in English. If you ask in French, he answers in French. If you ask in German, he answers in German. In Italian, in Greek, in Spanish. However you ask, that's how he answers.
He really accesses this information. Our human brain is very limited. That's why it takes us a long time to learn things, and Bilu learns with great ease. He picks up this information probably through frequencies. He says that everything in the universe is frequency. So it's like you have a radio device, you tune into the right frequency, and on that frequency you can establish a conversation. And that's more or less how I understand what he does.
A certain person who was also involved in the Portal project and had doubts about whether Bilu was really Bilu, whether he was a being from another dimension, asked Bilu in Aramaic, in Guarani, right? In the Guarani language and in the Aramaic language. And Bilu answered in both languages.
He doesn't have a language. He hasn't studied any language. He simply learns from the way we think from our words. So he will answer in whatever language we use.
That's why he can speak perfect English, perfect German, perfect Portuguese, as we've noticed.
With an accent.
With an accent even, right? Because he actually picks up on our frequency. He learns from us, right? I've even seen Bilu speaking with an accent, even a southern accent, Even using the way people from the south speak, right? I've also seen him speaking to me with a Minas Gerais accent and also with a São Paulo accent.
And something interesting also happens. There were people during contact with Bilu who said, Bilu, can I ask a question? Can I ask a question mentally in my mind? Bilu would say yes. The person would ask the question, close their eyes, think about the question, say it to Bilu, and Bilu would answer them out loud so everyone could understand, right? Showing that Bilu could pick up on thoughts very easily. Sometimes we ask, why is Bilu in Brazil, right? Why did he appear at that spot in Mato Grosso do Sul? First, because the city of Casal, which is the city from where, an underground city where he is located, is this connection he has with our world is in that region of Mato Grosso do Sul, as I mentioned, in that area up to Bolivia, right? And most people who have this vibration, this strong energy connected to the frequency of carrying out a mission for the world are here in Brazil, right? They're in this region of Brazil and in Latin America, but more concentrated in the region of Brazil. They say it's going to be the breadbasket of the world, right? Yeah, because Brazil, besides bringing together all religions, right? The cultures, Brazil is also very open to these different things, these energetic things. Our culture, yeah, it came very much tied to this thing of mysticism, right? Even though in the Portal Project we always seek raw, straightforward, and direct information without belief systems that could trap our consciousness, right? So we always tend to seek within research.
Yeah, it's interesting that people think he only appears in Brazil or that he showed up just in Corguinho, right? I've already talked to him in Corguinho, but I've also talked to him in other places. And actually, he didn't choose Brazil. He didn't choose Corguinho. It's not about the location, it's about the people. He chose to present himself to people who were able to listen to him, who were ready to hear what he has to tell us. So people with an open mind. But he can, and he will, appear and talk to people anywhere in the world. He doesn't depend on the location for that.
Well, what I know is that he came to Brazil because of the following. Brazil has a mission and a frequency, okay? Which was even chosen by us when we came here, okay? To work on all of this, to help the population. So Beluga came here because of us, right? All of us who live here. So Brazil, there has always been, since I was a child, I've heard people say that Brazil is the breadbasket of humanity, that Brazil is the future of humanity. I don't know, that's just my perception and my understanding. I think it's all related to that. So according to that, I think it's because of what we have to do here. In fact, Bilu, it's not that he chose to come here, it's because we are here and he came to join us.
Initially, he chose this group of people with a more open mind, ready to receive his information and pass it on. So, he is conducting a test with this group of people in Brazil. And based on the results of this test, he will certainly appear in other parts of the world to other groups, also to people who are prepared to see him, to receive his message.
They know about the age of Aquarius. They know that this is the end of a gigantic cycle, which completes 26,800 years, that the Earth's precession movement will be one of the most turbulent of recent times, of recent cycles, right? So, yeah, why are they here? Knowing that the flood, this precession movement, has already wiped out approximately 97% of the civilizations that existed here on Earth in other eras, right? So they are here to try to protect as many lives as possible during this time. Now, in this time of transition, they know what is going to happen. They warned the governments a long time ago, and the governments did not pass the information on to the population, nor did they provide any refuge for the people. That is the illusion. So now they want to protect the population. They are really preparing the cities, right, Casal, which will be handed over to us still this year, precisely so that we can shelter the population who will be completely unprotected by the world leaders. So the governments, they have absolutely no concern for preserving human life. What do they want? Let them die, whatever is left. We can help in one way or another by providing food and so on. But for the world leaders, it's actually preferable for the population to die. For you, they want to save every life is precious, okay? And there is an exchange. Our evolution here, saving lives through information and guidance, is an exchange in relation to their evolution. If we achieve a good result here, they also achieve a great result up there in their dimensional spheres. If we fail here, it means that their guidance was not enough to help us on the various planets, okay? It wasn't enough to motivate this group, right? But the real concern is not to let so many people die, right? To save as many as they can through information. And we are their intermediaries. We are representing them here on Earth. If they were to show themselves here, it would cause many more deaths. The cultural shock. Prejudice, right? I mean, it would overturn all the theories of physics of the origin of humanity. So, in other words, ideology would kill far more people. This shock would kill far more people than an actual Third World War.
Pasará o mundo. Informações surpreendentes em relação à Terra. Sobre a origem do homem na Terra. Sobre a presença de Cristo. Toda a verdade. Também sobre Deus. O arquiteto do universo.
Look, the planetary transition is anticipated by various civilizations. She is controversial. She's known, right? Many prophets, many incidents talk a lot about it. The esoteric field in particular works a lot with this issue of planetary transition, which is nothing more than the transformation from one era to another. Or rather, the conclusion of the era we are currently in, right? The age of Pisces entering the age of Aquarius. So this transition affects consciousness. It influences the ways of the planet, which in turn is reflected in human beings, the living beings here on Earth. So this changes the way people think, their attitudes. It can make someone extremely excited in terms of brain activity, or it can make a person completely, conflicted with themselves, with the system, with everything around them, right? With the universe around them. So, this planetary transition happens in relation to the periods in which the Earth itself finds itself in relation to the galaxy, our own galaxy, right? These are periods of 525 years, as the Mayans were the ones who delved deepest into this issue of planetary transition, but in a didactic way, with mathematical calculations, right? So there's the esoteric side, which involves all this vibrational elevation, the issue of jaderism, of energy, of the interaction with the fourth dimension, and especially in communication with the dead, right, with spiritual entities, and especially in mental communication with extraterrestrial beings from dimensions close to ours, who have also sent some messages to people and have a much more developed, a more refined perception, such as mediumship, premonition, and others, right? Bringing it to a more abstract aspect of Earth. This transition causes geographic changes, earthquakes, tsunamis, and changes in the climate, okay? And this is harmful to human beings, right? So it's the beginning of an era, the end of one era, and the start of another, with perhaps the possibility of various natural disasters on the planet, in some regions, especially in the north, right? And others will be milder, in the case here in the south. We believe that in South America, the situation will be gentler, right? So the planetary transition affects everything. The planet's vibration, people's vibration, and especially the Earth's geographic and physical condition.